Welcome back to Tipping Point. I'm your host, Kara McKinney. In a story that only a few years ago would have sounded like a bad episode of South Park, a Canadian high school is choosing to come to the defense of a woodshop teacher who's received sharp criticism for teaching class while sporting I can't even get through this, I'm laughing so much, a set of comically large fake breasts. It sounds like a fake story at first, like we're making a parody of the left, because yes, you did hear me correctly. And that is the teacher in question currently on screen. And I hate to laugh because this is so bad, but the teacher pictured here with the enormous nipples of his prosthetic breast protruding through his ill-fitting shirt goes by the name Kayla Lemieux and is, of course, a man who identifies as a transgender woman. When parents of students at Oakville Trafalgar High School reached out to the school to express their understandable horror, this is the response that they received. Quote, "We are aware of discussion on social media and in the media regarding Oakville Trafalgar High School. We would like to take this opportunity to reiterate to our community that we are committed to establishing and maintaining a safe, caring, inclusive, equitable, and welcoming learning and working environment for all students and staff. We strive to promote a positive learning environment in schools consistent with the values of the HDSB and to ensure a safe and inclusive environment for all students, staff, and the community, regardless of race, age, ability, sex, gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation, ethnicity, religion, cultural observance, socioeconomic circumstances, or body type/size," end quote. Joining us now to discuss is Libby Emmons, the editor-in-chief of the Post Millennial. Thanks for being here tonight, Libby.
Sure thing, Kara.
So I guess they are creating a caring and safe environment for everyone but the students, would you say?
Yeah, this is a safe, caring for everyone, but the student dress code does not permit the showing of genitals or nipples, but it does apparently for teachers. So that is a little bizarre. And it's also true that the Ontario Human Rights Commission has anti-discrimination protections for people who like to cross-dress. So I suppose that is what's going on here. But it really is absolutely absurd. This is woman costume. This is not uh, even an exhibition of someone who identifies as a woman. I don't know any woman who would go around like this in fake breasts, or a woman that has breasts this size who wouldn't do something to make sure that they were a little more protected and perhaps taken care of than you see here in this video. And I think it's also fair to say that this teacher is forcing students to participate in his own sexual fetish.
And I think that is what it comes down to. Obviously, I mean, I don't know the guy, I haven't talked to him, but I know when it comes to cross-dressing, at least in decades past, I know now there's the idea of dysphoria where someone feels like they were born in the wrong body. Of course, we know that's not true, and we do feel bad for people who actually do suffer that. But, you know, a few decades ago, a lot of cross-dressing was like, I think the term was autogynephilia, a male who was
Right.
actually aroused by putting on female clothes. Again, not casting aspersions here, but I feel like that may be kind of playing into what we see just based of how he's dressed and how he's presenting himself to the class. Like, there's no reason, A, for the size of the breast, but also for the nipples to be like that. I think that's making a big statement there. But we've seen a big divergence on the left with radical feminists. We've seen a split between those who are very pro-trans ideology and those who are not. They're called the TERFs, the ones who aren't for a lot of these trans issues. And going back to a point you're making earlier to tie in with that, not only are students the dress code, they can't wear something like that as the teacher is wearing, but also if this was a biological woman dressed like that, walking around like that, she would not be allowed to dress like that. And that apparel should be told to,
That's right.
cover up, be a little bit more modest dress, in a workplace especially with kids around. And yet you have a biological male who is pretending to look that way and he could get away with it. Is that one of the reasons why, for example, quote unquote, TERFs are so upset?
Yeah, women who realize that woman is a biological sex designation and not a costume do find costumes like this somewhat offensive. And I think that that's with good reason. I think it's also likely that perhaps this man does not identify as a woman, but instead identifies as a blow up doll, because that is how he has dressed himself. He's got the fake breasts, he's got the fake hair, he's got the short shorts. All that's missing is the permanent O expression for his mouth. But I think it's really shocking too that the school is getting behind this, knowing full well that other teachers who are female would not be permitted to dress like this, knowing also that there is a danger having these kinds of protrusions around things like table saws. I don't know about you, but I took shop class and we had to be remarkably careful. We had to pull our hair back, all sorts of things. And, certainly because we were in middle school, no one had anything like this going on, but it would not have been permitted in a shop class. And I think it's also arguably more offensive for the women students, the girls in class who are probably in high school dealing with their own issues about their own bodies. And it almost seems like he's making fun of them and making fun of what they're going through. Girls have a really hard time as their bodies are developing and their breasts get bigger. It feels really weird. Everybody looks at you differently. And suddenly, I'm sure everybody is laughing at this poor teacher who's behaving in such an egregiously stupid and offensive way. But imagine if you were a woman in the class, 16, 17 years old, you have large breasts, you're already struggling with that. It's hard to find the appropriate undergarments for all different reasons, not the least reason being that they're very expensive. The larger you get, the more expensive these things are. And that would feel really upsetting to me, I think, if you're already having trouble to see your teacher essentially making fun of the difficulties that you're facing on a daily basis that are outside of your control.
No, I think that's exactly right. That's a point I hadn't even thought of, but I think you're exactly correct there. And I think this is also reason number 1,052. I don't know, make up a number, as we've talked about before, that I think we on the right sometimes we get too comfortable in just pointing out the craziness and saying, wow, can you believe that? But I think the shock value now, sadly, is wearing off. You see, as you were saying earlier, this school, they're like, yeah, we see it. We've seen those pictures. We see them every day. We're fine with it. Now what? So I think that kind of necessitates us to have a different approach to the matter, a more holistic type of approach in how we talk about the ideologies, the worldview underlying how we see ourselves, our bodies, how men and women relate to each other, and also how we use the power that is given to elected officials by the people. As we see, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is a great example of what can be done to help protect kids, because again, the shock value is sadly wearing off. We see the kink in the streets with pride parades. You see parents happily bringing toddlers to that. So we're gonna have to use more when we talk about this. So Libby, that's why I love bringing you on. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks so much, Kara.